If you're spending all your time, all your alone time and off time on social media or watching TV or just kind of wasting time, it sounds like you've buried your dream and you're trying to hide from it. Welcome back to 5 Ideas. I'm your host, Joey Nagel, along with Coach Rich Clay. Today we're talking about dreams.
Yes, absolutely one of my favorite subjects. And by the way, let's clarify, we're not necessarily talking about what happens at nighttime after pepperoni pizza. Although sometimes dreams actually are downloaded in the middle of the night.
Interesting.
But what we're really talking about is something inside of us, something that we're longing for. It doesn't even have to be magnanimous of nature. Some people just have a dream for a better lifestyle. Some people have a dream that their children can go to college because they never did. Some people have a dream of a home. So dreams can take on all different levels, but everyone has a dream. And dreams really, a lot of times, is what keeps us moving. It keeps us alive. It keeps us moving forward.
Interesting. So a dream is not necessarily, doesn't just have to be what happens after you go to bed and while you're sleeping. You're talking about things that people desire that they don't necessarily yet have.
Exactly.
It almost kind of reminds me of faith a little bit.
It is. And dreams are synonymous with faith. Dreams are a huge part of the biblical account. Let me give you an example. In the Old Testament, Joseph, who literally became prime minister of Egypt when Egypt was a world power under the pharaohs, and this little guy by the name of Joseph, ring a bell? This little guy by the name of Joseph had a dream, and his dream was that he would be used to literally be a great influencer in the world. He had a dream that his brothers would someday come and bow down before him, and of course that ticked his brothers off.
Yep.
But it actually came about, and that was a dream that I believe was deposited in him by God. So I believe dreams come from God.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with the story of Joseph, Egypt was the world power at the time, basically like the United States of America is today.
Exactly.
And the rest of the country, the rest of the world potentially was going into a severe famine at that time. And Egypt was a major food source.
Yes.
And Joseph, if you're not familiar with the story, Joseph had a dream from God and also had a strategy to essentially save the world from dying of hunger.
Oh,
and correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's where it really gets cool. Okay, you really want to. So Pharaoh had a dream that troubled him and didn't know what to do about it. And Joseph, who was in prison and who had interpreted some of the prisoners' dreams, told Pharaoh, "There's a man in your prison who can interpret dreams." Joseph interpreted that dream, and he went from prisoner to prime minister like that.
And prime minister
of agriculture.
Basically second in command.
There was
no one in charge of Joseph other than Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And Pharaoh is the world leader at this time.
World leader, and it literally became the breadbasket that saved the world, because now God downloads this wisdom into Joseph, and Joseph is able to take grain for 7 years and store it and stockpile it. So the rest of the world had to come and buy grain from Egypt.
So dreams can be powerful, is what you're saying.
Wow. Yeah.
Are there any more modern day recent examples of maybe some dreams that have changed our lives kind of in the past maybe 10, 20 years?
Well, certainly there are, many, many, many examples of that. But just think about it for a moment. Most people that we hear about that have done something significant, it all began with a dream.
Yeah.
You know, a little boy is out in his backyard, you know, playing baseball. He's throwing the ball. He's hitting. He had a dream somewhere that he wanted to play baseball. He wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Entrepreneurs are introduced early on to business plans and business people. So everything starts with a dream.
Yeah. I think for some reason Elon Musk pops into my mind.
Exactly.
The idea of an electric car. Dream. Starts with a dream, but now it's changing the landscape of the world.
Yeah. What about Richard Branson?
Yeah.
And taking people to the moon, you know, after having one dream after another. Let's go ahead and see if we can take the public now in space, I should say. Take the public to space. That was a dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I can almost feel you guys like asking like, okay, I get you're talking about all these big dreams, like the biggest, the wealthiest people in the world. Like, how does that relate to me? And maybe us talking about all these is making us feel like our dreams are insignificant, because we're just trying to dream of maybe just getting a house one day, moving out of my apartment, getting a better job. But you mentioned something. It's sounding like it's not really the scale of the dream. It's just the dream that you have. Is there any?
There is no insignificant dream.
Okay.
There is no insignificant dream. And so the value of dreams is this. This is what I love, is that we should all, number one, have a dream, and we should all be helping someone with their dream.
That's an idea.
Yes, it is, because dreams can never be fulfilled on our own. You know, Joseph had things all along the way that set him up for his dream. But more and more and more, we need to recognize, because here's what happens when dreams reach a point. By the way, let me just share this with you, because there are 3 stages to every dream. There's the birth stage of a dream, and that is when we have this dream. I want to be a professional baseball player, okay? Then there's what I call the death stage of a dream. Death stage of a dream is, I don't have enough talent to play professional baseball. But then there is the rebirth of an original dream. That's when I may not be a Major League Baseball player, but I could work in the office of a major league team, or I could be a coach, or I could be associated with Major League Baseball in some way. So sometimes we have these original dreams, and then we come to a point of going, well, maybe I'll never be the president of the United States. However, what if I still have a bent towards politics? Maybe I can be involved in my local community politics.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get involved with my local party. So there's stages to dreams, but everybody has dreams. But the negative side is this: when we just leave that dream in a death stage, we never revisit it, and we never ask for help. And more people, I was sharing this with you earlier before we came on the podcast, that more and more organizations are actually hiring people to help people in their organization identify their dream, number one, because number one, you have to identify it, because sometimes we bury it. And number two, how could we help you live out your dream?
That's wild. You were before the show we were talking about this kind of new emerging concept, and I'm sure that you can look it up and find some research on that. Of what did you call it? A
dream manager.
Dream manager. So these organizations are hiring these dream managers whose job it is to help the employees of the organization one-on-one figure out what their dream is. That dream could be, I want to send my kids to college. I'd like to move out of my apartment and buy a house. I'd like to be able to take my family on vacation. Whatever your dream is, it could even be like, I want to start another company, or I want to be, an entrepreneur, or whatever. Their job is to help them identify that and then help them create a plan to actually achieve it.
Yeah, and on this podcast we deal with this is called 5 ideas, and we have these 5 areas.
Yep.
Relationships, health and fitness, finance, productivity, which is being the best version of yourself, and faith and spirituality, right? I have found as a life and leadership coach that most of what I do is help people fulfill their dream.
Yeah.
In one of those 5 areas. So somebody might have a dream to have a real fulfilling relationship. Maybe they have a dream to have enough money to have some financial freedom. So they're always looking for a dream to be fulfilled. And really my role is to come into their life and manage that dream, be their dream manager for them.
Absolutely. And so how do you identify between a dream that you have originally that's inside of you, that maybe you were born with, maybe you it's just something you've desired since childhood, versus what people tell you should be dreaming, maybe on pop culture, maybe in the media, and for an example, like dreaming of getting a Lamborghini, and you're like, well, that person looks happy doing that. And in all reality, you might never be happy doing that because that's not really your dream. It's just a distraction. How can people identify? How can we identify between the two?
Okay, so that's a great question. Okay, that's a super great question. And let me say a couple of things. First of all, let me say this. When you have a dream, especially maybe at a young age, when you have something inside of you at a young age, it doesn't go away. It resurfaces. Even when it seems like maybe it didn't come, it doesn't go away. It comes back. If you're doing something that's expected of you, there's typically not a lot of passion with that. And if you're chasing some vision like, oh man, I'd love that rock star lifestyle, I would say with that, there's something in it that's missing. So even if you obtain it, even if you get that Lamborghini, there's probably something emotionally that's going to be missing.
Interesting.
So then you're driving this and going, yeah, this is nice, but you'll want something else. But when you're going after your dream, it keeps you up. It wakes you up in the morning. It keeps you up at night. And matter of fact, the dream of this 5 ideas and this podcast, I had this dream more than 30 years ago, and it never went away. And yet it's just now starting to come to fruition. I think real dreams never go away.
Wow.
Even when you're not living in them, it never left Joseph. Joseph never
Even in prison.
Even in prison. He was rejected by his family. He was falsely accused along the way. He was thrown into prison, but that dream never left him.
On top of that, to kind of add on, that's a phenomenal answer. And I think kind of adding on to that, the dream you're saying, if it's in you, it doesn't necessarily go away, but how come some people never realize their dreams that don't go away? It sounds like there must be a way to bury them.
Oh, definitely. And that's called discouragement. It's discouragement and despondency. And people will give up on a dream. And so, and they just feel like maybe there's no other option. That's why I love being a dream coach, or a coach that helps people identify that, recognize that, go back to their true identity and who they really are, and they begin to live out who they really are.
Yeah.
And when they can live out who they really are, eventually, that dream will start to resurface again.
I think it sounds like the dream, if it's an original dream that you have and not somebody else's that you're trying to chase that you think could be a good dream, it sounds like you default whenever you're not working, or whenever you have some free time, you default back to your dream.
Absolutely.
You default back to, how do I make that dream a reality?
Yeah.
And I think a way from what I hear you saying, just kind of putting the pieces together in my mind, it seems like if you're spending all your time, all your alone time and off time on social media or watching TV or just kind of wasting time, it sounds like you've buried your dream and you're trying to hide from it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that goes to identity. I know that sounds crazy and I'm talking about identity, but let me explain. Sometimes what you need to do to fulfill your dream is be the dream, not just chase the dream. Be it. You know what Joseph's brothers called him? They called him the dreamer. He was a dreamer. That's what he did. Yeah. He was a dreamer. So oftentimes what our dream is, I was coaching a client through writing a book one time. And it was just roadblock. And finally, I just said to him, listen, don't think about writing. I said, just be a writer. You are a writer and be it. And so whatever your dream is, be it, live it. And what happens is when you start to live it, it starts to manifest, it starts to happen. So you have this dream, but be it. If you're a dreamer, dream. If you're a writer, write. If you're a runner, run. If you have a dream of running a marathon, then run.
It's kind of like, don't overthink it. Just do it.
Exactly.
Just like Top Gun. Don't think, just do.
Exactly.
It's almost like the thinking and the logic can sometimes get in the way of you actually doing. Because like you're saying, if you want to run, if you're dreaming of running a marathon, but you'd never run anything at all, you're never gonna run a marathon. It's like, it's almost that simple. Because I was about to ask you, I was like, could you give us some practical ways that we could apply this to your life? And then you said, just do it.
Yeah.
Like it's just stop dreaming about it all the time and never actually doing anything to achieve it.
And what we do in coaching is we just help you process out how to do that. All right. So we come up with game plans. Well, I don't, but the client does. And so we're going to write. Okay. How much? We're going to write 15 minutes a day. Okay. What time? At 5:30 every morning. Great. How am I going to know?
Yeah.
I'll text you when I'm done. Great. Now it goes into 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 months, a year. In a year, you've written 15 minutes a day. You probably have got a book.
Yeah, true.
And your dream becomes a reality.
But it wasn't just all at once.
Yeah. And that's how to manifest that dream. But people get overwhelmed and then discouraged, and I had a dream. Do you know how many people have told me they were going to write a book? They were going to write a song? How many people are out there listening to this podcast and you have a song inside of you ready that the world needs to hear? You have a book with information that people need to hear. You have something inspiring that will change somebody's life. You have a dream that needs to come forth and be manifest. And I'm just going to encourage you, don't give up on that dream. Seek out some help. Have somebody help you organize how you can be what your dream is. What it is, that's what you can be. I had a dream of being a coach. After I gave up my dream of being a Major League Baseball player, I wanted to be a coach of Major League players. This went through all different kinds of processes, and guess what was really in my heart? It wasn't necessarily to play baseball. Now that would have been fun and the money would have been great. Coaching would have been fun, right? But deep down in me was just this simple thing, to coach. I'm a coach. I was born to coach. And guess what? I'm now living out that dream because I'm coaching people in different capacities. As a pastor, I coach people. As a consultant, I coach people. Certainly as a life and leadership coach, I coach people, but I spend almost every day of my life coaching somebody at some time throughout the day. I am a coach. And that was my dream, to be a coach.
So sometimes, even though it may not look like the exact catalyst that you imagined, that does not mean
Exactly.
because you're still helping. So if you want to be in the majors, you have to be a high achiever. And if you want to coach in the majors, you have to know how to coach high achievers to achieve even higher. And that's what you do right now. You coach high achievers. You actually coach people in the majors. They're just not necessarily in Major League Baseball necessarily, but they're in the majors of life. They're at the higher levels. They're these CEOs, they're the actors, the authors, the organization leaders. It's like you're doing what you set out to do, just not exactly how you pictured it, but you're still fulfilled because the thing is still the thing.
Yeah. Joseph could have never imagined that original dream being what it was.
Yeah, true.
Right?
That's true.
And so that's what I'm saying is that let's not get discouraged because the dream doesn't go exactly the way we saw it. There's still the dream inside of you. There's still a dream somebody has to have a house, to have that right relationship, to have that right job. Don't stop dreaming. It's only when we stop dreaming that we lose the dream.
Yep.
Because it can be fulfilled in a lot of different ways.
And the process can be enjoyed.
Yes.
Along the way, which is a whole other episode that we can talk about that. But you could choose to look at all the reasons why you're not achieving what you thought you were going to, or you can enjoy the process along the way and have fun on the way to achieving your dream.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of 5 Ideas. We hope you're inspired to continue dreaming and recognize that sometimes your dream can still be realized, even though it may not look exactly how you initially pictured it. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, and we'll see you on the next episode of 5 Ideas.